the Great British Pinball Podcast, and here are your hosts Scott Rundle and Neil McRae.
Welcome everybody, this is the Great British Pinball Podcast. I'm Neil McRae. Scott isn't here because this is a special episode all about Star Wars Fall of the Empire. Stern has an embargo on this, you had to agree to that. We were invited to their offices in Chicago, their factory in Chicago, and I went, Scott didn't. He's got bigger, more important things on his hands, and just to say mother and baby are doing well, they're at home, everything's looking great. Scott posted some beautiful pictures on his Facebook, and he's a busy and tired man. Big shout out to Holly and Scott, we love you loads. Back to Star Wars. So this will be released, if all goes according to plan, at 11 o'clock Chicago time today, which is Friday the 12th of September. That's the kind of cut-off date, although we're waiting for Stern to confirm that, so it could be later. Anyway, nonetheless, I thought I'd get organised for this and share my view of the game. The thing that hits you about this game, first off, is the artwork. Stern have commissioned 3 absolutely stunning pieces of artwork, probably some of the best Star Wars art I've ever seen, and they've smashed it on that. You've got the Battle of Endor on the Pro, you've got Empire Strikes Back on the Premium, and also kind of Empire Strikes Back on the LE, which is the Snow Speeders Battle of, I forget what it's called, it'll come back to me, but Hoth, Battle of Hoth, and it's the kind of scenes are set from the movies. They've, as you'll see from the videos and the pictures you're going to see over the next couple of days, the artwork is amazing. The back glasses are stunning, and it really hits you. On the LE, they've got a blue trim, a bit like the Monster Bash trim for the Monster Bash LE, if you've seen that, maybe a little bit lighter, but it really pops, and the game looks amazing. The second thing about the game is a Spike 3. Let me just cover that first before I deep dive into the actual game. So Spike 3, new CPU, new amplifier, new USB stuff, more memory, more video memory, bigger, faster, better. How does that translate to the pinball player, to the user? Really simply, first of all, the audio. Mark and the team who built this board have absolutely killed it on the audio. The audio sounds outstanding. I am a geek that spends stupid amounts of money on freaking speaker cable because I believe it'll make things sound better, and it does. They have really smashed it. They've separated the speakers, so you've got a separate tweeter and kind of main speaker, and obviously the sub in the cabinet still, and you can the level of detail, especially lower bass signals, just pops. I have to say, I was not expecting it to be as good as it was. I was expecting it to be better for sure, right? But as good as it is, I was not expecting that. They have smashed it. The second thing, the screen is 35% bigger. And George Gomez he's actually redesigned the cabinet head to fit it all in. And literally they've just taken away wasted space. They've squeezed the speaker space a little bit more, hence the tweeter kind of speaker setup. It looks like a hi-fi speaker. And although when you see it, you'll say, oh, it doesn't look that much bigger. It is hugely bigger. It's 35% bigger. And if you put the old screen, and I told them I actually told Stern to build this model. If you put like an overlay on of the old screen and then take away for the big screen, it's a massive upgrade. And I would say it's the perfect screen size. I think Jersey Jack's too big you're trying to see stuff. This is perfect. It means the translate's the same size, the cabinet head's the same size. You kind of have to take a double look to notice that there's any changes, but I have to say the screen quality. I mean, what this means is they've got enough real estate, and it's HDMI, so it's 1080p. You can kind of zoom out. You can have like the Star Wars video playing, and around it you can have all the data, because quite a lot of licensors will not let you put your stuff onto their video. James Bond, for example, Star Wars, for example, I think John Wick as well. I might be wrong on that. I think they had to kind of zoom out for that. I might not be 100%, but it just gives them more flexibility to put stuff on the screen. Spike 3 has HDMI out. And on HDMI, it also has the audio, so you can plug in an HDMI cable, take it to your streaming rig. Life is good. It also should work. I'm going to test this as soon as I can with the Axon wireless transmitters, which for streamers, is very much good news. Wireless headphone support, which should be Bluetooth. I think there's still some work to do on finalizing that, but again, that's another really big plus point for the game. When you're playing on location, you want to be able to hear the audio, and it's something that I know a lot of people have been asking for. It's coming. It's much more home friendly. So the game, so the setup has sleep mode. So you can put it in sleep mode. It'll do downloads of new code whilst the game's off and update it. So you can turn it off. You can put it into super sleep mode. So if you're one of the guys like me that's got, hey Alexa, turn on all the pinball machines, it is you can set that up with it in the sleep mode. In some of the modes, the boot time is much quicker, and that'll appeal to some people that hate waiting for the game to boot. What else can I say? Also onboard Wi-Fi that's 2.5 gig and 5 gigahertz. And I'm pretty sure, although they didn't say this, but having looked at the board, there's definitely looks like there's a cable for an external antenna, which should make things a lot better. Particularly for locations where you've typically got a lot of interference. There's more to come from Spike 3, more capabilities. The new they've added more to the new menu system in terms of stats. Node boards from Spike 2 are compatible with Spike 3. I actually think you could take the screen and speaker part from Spike 3 and make it work on Spike 2. Actually, maybe not the speakers, but definitely the screen. And actually the speakers, but without the tweeter, obviously. But they've done a really, really great job of making a small but significant change. And did I tell you the audio is amazing on it? I can't believe how good it is. And I'm trying to think any other Spike 3 big kind of things to think about. That was kind of it. And the Spike 3 things are kind of a big step into the future. I think with more memory, more storage space, and also more processing power, they're using a much better codec. So when they compress stuff, they're using better codecs, so the compression for videos and audio sounds a lot better, and you could definitely hear that. The CPU is a Raspberry Pi based CPU that they've bought to kind of clamp onto their own board, and I have to say, I think they've delivered what Spike 3 needed. Now, what does that mean for the play field? I think right now, not a lot. I think they've got more stuff to come, but it allows them just to do more with assets and things like that. But, I think this is the first step of Spike 3 rather than the big bang of everything. And in my mind, it's a great step forward. Especially the thing I was worried about was a different shaped cabinet. Which I've got, as you can see from behind me, I've got a Bond 60th, and that cabinet's slightly different, and it just sticks out like a sore thumb. Same with Beatles. Let's get back to Star Wars. So, Star Wars, Fall of the Empire. So the story kind of starts. There is some stuff from New Hope in it, which, for me, the end of the Empire starts with New Hope, especially if you think about the prequels, right? Luke becomes, Luke starts his journey to be a Jedi. Obi-Wan comes out of hiding. They go and blow the Death Star up, which is kind of the beginning of the end. So on the game, the different shots, like different characters, and each character's got a set number of modes that involves that characters. Let me tell you, the first thing I really hit me about this game was you're in the action right away. There's no faffing about with 50 shots to light a mode. You're right in there. It's very quick to get a mode going. It's very quick to get a multi-ball going. The layout is a fan layout. It's not a typical John Borg fan layout like Guardians or Metallica. It's a bit more of a traditional fan layout, which I think for this title is perfect, so that, you know, Star Wars games always pull in a lot of non-pinball players. Some of the shots are quite tight, but you can backhand them, especially the Death Star, which swallows the ball, which, if you remember, was a prediction that I made. It does swallow the ball, eats the ball if you're so inclined. And you've got the Sarlacc pit. Again, you can backhand some of these shots, and you got some ramp shots. Some of the shots you tie together to produce a combo that does something. Like you've got an AT-AT walker on the premium that falls over. Quite a cool little toy. It's not a huge toy, but you couldn't do a big AT-AT walker toy on the playfield. It just wouldn't work. But they've got one that falls over, and you do that by in the mode by hitting towards it and then doing another shot, which is effectively the looping of the tow cable to make it fall down. Works really well. The code's early, of course, as you'd expect. And on the playfield, you got some other stuff. You got some toys that move and light up. You got some that are kind of just static and fixed, just to make the playfield look nice. Overall, I think the playfield looks good. It's a fan layout, so it's pretty straightforward. There's pop bumpers on either side, which is all about the Force, and that's the other part of the game. The Force plays a part in some abilities, including on the game, which is this ball save where you've got to hit the button, but you've got to hit the button in the Jedi way for it to work. Actually, some of the guys that were there managed to make it work. They had the skill. They had the Force was with them. For me, the Force was not with me. I couldn't get it to work, but I actually wasn't trying too hard. It's a cool feature. I think they've thought it well. It's not so. This works from two areas. It works from the ball going straight down the middle, but also works from the ball from the outlane. And actually, the outlane one, as you'll probably see in the Stern videos, actually looks pretty cool. For tournament directors like me, it's hell. It's probably the first feature I'm going to turn off. Because actually probably not, but I think it probably needs some balancing from a tournament perspective. But for the home use or on location, it's a great, cool little feature when you get it right. I think there's 8 characters on the playfield, and each of them have 3 or 4 modes. So there's plenty to do in this game. There's loads of different multi-balls. The one that I was going for was Death Star multi-ball. 1, because I like seeing the ball be swallowed by the Death Star, and 2, it kind of launches them out at one big kind of fire, kind of one shot, which is quite cool. You got this on the premium LE, you got this ramp that goes up and down, a bit like the rush ramp, and that just gives you access to kind of some other parts of the playfield. And then you've got the usual orbits that you'd expect in a fan layout. The artwork on the playfield's great. There's not much difference between the artwork between the versions. In fact, I don't think there's any difference on the playfield artwork. I think the game. I don't want to spoil the game for folks, because that drives me nuts when people go into the gory details of it. But the modes are really close to the start button, so like I say, you get into it really quickly. And it's the first Star Wars game where I felt like I'm in the movie. It feels like I'm the character that I've selected, and I'm doing my bit for the rebellion. And I think that works really well. There's a Darth Vader scoop that has a whole bunch of modes and kind of modifiers that are coming over the next few weeks, or what I would imagine as the game is released and the code gets developed. I think they're on I think I heard them say they're on like code 8.82 or 83 or something. And the other thing that's cool about the code, and Rady's done an epic job of this, which is there's a lot of the classic Star Wars one-liners. You'll hear "Laugh it up, fuzzball," one of my favorite Han Solo quotes. That they've kind of put that bit of comedy that's in Star Wars all around the game. C-3PO does the call-outs, which is excellent. I don't think it's Anthony Daniels. I actually meant to ask that and forgot, but it works really well. Whoever it is, they've done a great job. It works really well. And again, they haven't coded all the call-outs yet. They're working through that, but I was impressed by the call-outs, and also it wasn't like Harry Potter where it feels like you're reading a PowerPoint slide. The call-outs are kind of specifically pinpointed at different points of time of the game when you need them, and I think that, again, I just think Stern are they're just better at doing that than anyone, frankly. Europe, yeah. So some of you are asking, Neil, what's the story with Europe? The game's not, at the moment, the game's not coming to Europe. Disney Europe has said no. So email Disney Europe and complain is your best bet of changing that. I'm going to try and figure out how I import a game from the US. I don't even know if that'll work, but I'm going to give it a go. And I think this is a game Europe's going to be pissed off they don't have. Is this game, like an Uncanny X-Men or a Kong in terms of its playfield layout? No, it's not that, right? And for some people that'll appeal to them. There was one of the other folks invited to the event, said, "No, John Borg's games are always hard," which I don't think is true. At least I don't think it's true. And I like hard games, as you know. So, and I kind of resisted the call to do a Steve Ritchie play better. But I think the fan layout will make that easier for folks. The fan layout is probably closer to Stranger Things than it is to, say, Metallica or Guardians of the Galaxy. But I think John Borg, who was there, has done a great job of creating a Star Wars game. I think this game is going to sell like hotcakes for two reasons. Actually, for three reasons. One, the game just looks amazing. It just, there's as Stern said, there's no AI involved in the art, which made a lot of laughs. The artwork is fantastic, so the game really stands out. On location, it's going to stand out. Location, folks, you're going to love this game. It's going to swallow lots of dollar bills. The second thing is the audio. And with Spike 3, the improved audio, I mean, you can really crank it up, as you'll see in one of my videos, and it just the clarity of it is very impressive, especially for a design. This pinball cabinet design isn't designed for audio quality, right? But it works really well, and you hear it in the main title of Star Wars where. Excuse me, sorry, I'm a bit jet lagged. You hear it where the main title of Star Wars, you just hear the depth of the orchestra. I think that'll be another positive thing. And finally, the game is a huge amount of fun. Again, it's no Jaws or Kong in terms of complexity of shots, etc. But I think it's a great game. I think people are going to enjoy it. It's early code, so I always kind of hold off on where the game's going. But from what I've seen so far, the approachableness of it, the accessibility of it, and getting into missions to do stuff quickly, I think is valuable. And you've got this force thing as you do shots, and your force improves. Again, I don't want to spoil too much of that. And actually, I kind of when I almost avoided trying to learn too much about how the game plays, because I like to play the game to learn how it plays, at least for the first few weeks of ownership, and then I'll go watch Joel or Travis do a YouTube video on it. Criticism of the game. What could I criticize? The fact that it's not coming to Europe, although I think that's aimed firmly at Disney. I think, some people might have been looking for more than a fan layout. They might have been looking for more bigger kind of toys. I think what's there is good. And again, I'm not a big complex mech fan. Is that right? My fan? No, I don't mind them, but I don't miss them either. I look at Iron Maiden, one of the best games ever. It's got no mechs in it at all. It's just coils, right? Um, the Walker's a cool little toy. The Death Star swallowing the ball, it kind of pops up. That's quite cool. The Sarlacc pit's pretty straightforward. Mod makers are going to love this game because I think there's lots that they can add in terms of value. I think I don't have anything that I could really criticize it for at this stage. I think the game is in a place where it's good. I can see it being great. It's on the right path to be great. I think completing the code and understanding, what they're going to do to that to really, make that story of Star Wars, really fit to you playing it. So before I was, God, jet lag's killing me. Before I was kind of, I'll get one. After, I'm putting more effort to get one now. I have to import one from the US, and I'm speaking to a lot more people to try and achieve a game here. And I think this is going to be every bit as big, if not bigger, than Steve Ritchie's Star Wars. I'm going to say it's the best Star Wars game made for pinball by some margin, especially the immersion with the audio. On the LE you've got the expression lights, which really add to the whole kind of, especially there's a couple of lightsaber moments. You can add the expression lights to the premium as an option. The pro, nope. If you buy a pro, you can't. There's no way of adding expression lights. A bit like I think Uncanny X-Men was like that. And I think it's going to sell really well. I think it's going to do amazingly on location. Location owners are going to be really happy with this. Home buyers and Star Wars fans are going to be happy with this. I think because of the artwork and the audio just sounds amazing. And the fact it really feels like you're in the game. The previous Star Wars games from Steve Ritchie, I never liked that game. I'll be honest with you. I thought it was it's quite a tough game. I think the multiplier stuff was a bit overwhelming. I never really got to grips with it, and as I said, it didn't feel like it. That it felt like a game where they'd overlaid Star Wars, and that's not a criticism. It's just how it feels to me. Whereas this game, it feels like they started with Star Wars and built the game around Star Wars. And maybe that's unfair to Steve and Dwight and the team that built the previous Star Wars, but that's how it feels to me. It's not meant to be a criticism. It's just, I just definitely feel like you're much more like Mandalorian. It feels like you're much more in the story than the Star Wars, where it feels like you're playing the greatest hit. In the old Star Wars, it feels like you're playing the greatest hits of Star Wars, whereas this, it feels like there's more of a story component to it, and you're in that story. What else did Stern share? I mean, not much more than that. I mean, I really appreciate them running these days. I know some folks say, "Oh, why do you get a fight and I don't get a fight?" Honestly, I think any manufacturer, irrespective of where they come from, that talks to people is a good thing. Certainly in my job, I engage with the press and the areas that represent my area proactively. I'd rather that they had a story than they kind of made up a story, if that makes sense. So I think this is great from Stern. They looked after us all day. Again, we got a tour of the factory. On the factory was Jaws 50th. And I think there's also some Kong. And business for Stern looks very positive. I know there's all these stories of unsold games, etc., but Stern were very upbeat. I think they clearly recognise. I think the market's not, at its COVID peak, but they were pretty, adamant that things were actually okay. There's a lot of doomsday stories. And obviously the second-hand market is a signal on that, but I think that's just oversupply. And eventually it'll get better, but I don't think it'll get much better. I think this is the market that you would normally have. What else? I was at Papa 22 World Championships. Congrats to ZMAC, who won the main, and Eric Stone, who won the classics. It was a great event, really well run. Andy Bagwell and the team did a great job. I hung out with Tom from Fox City Pinball, so I did a bit of announcing throughout the weekend. The games played really well. They were set up really well. It was tough. I kind of got 5 games, but unfortunately, not on the same card. Sorry, my jet lag's killing me. I was in the US for over a week because I was there with work as well. But yeah, great gig. And actually, whilst I was there, I got to play a couple of games again. Let me just run through them. So I played Avatar, Jersey Jack Avatar. That's such a missed opportunity. The game shoots really nice. The lower playfield's not great, I have to say. I think that's a miss. But the rest of the game shoots really well. The code's just ununderstandable. I mean, I don't know what whoever wrote that code was thinking, but they certainly weren't thinking about making it a fun pinball game, because it's just not. But it shoots really nice. The artwork on it's beautiful. If you're an Avatar fan, you'll love it, especially. But a real missed opportunity. From what I've heard, it's not sold well at all. And I feel, for the team that worked on that, I kind of feel for them, because it should have done better than it did. I also played Harry Potter more. They had an Interium. They had the arcade version, which is the same game, but it's got the kind of armor. And actually, the artwork's probably the closest to the movie artwork. So if you want the movie artwork, the arcade game is the one for you. And it's got the same black armor that Stern uses for their pros and premiums, which I was kind of amused by. But I thought it would be stainless steel. I had quite a few games on it, on the Harry Potter. In fact, I think I stuck $40 on it because I used the whole card. The upper shot to the little mini playfield at the top is quite a lot of fun. Really enjoyed that. If I compare it to kind of Star Wars, the whole mode select on Harry Potter is just stupid. They made you got to shoot quite a challenging scoop shot, a dangerous scoop shot to start modes or films as they are. It doesn't feel like you're in the game. It feels like you're playing pinball with Harry Potter stuff being thrown at you. A bit like Steve Ritchie's Star Wars to some extent. And the call-outs are just not... There's just too many of them. It's not that they're bad. Mark Silk does a great job of recording them, but it literally feels like you're being read a PowerPoint slide. Again, I think the game shoots well, but the code and the kind of feel of it just does nothing for me. I can't imagine buying one unless someone was giving it away, and then I'd probably stick it in the club. And then I also played... Sorry. I also played some Dune, and I want to say Dune is getting better, but some parts of the playfield I feel are quite challenging to shoot. I might even use the word clunky in a couple of areas. But the big thing I've seen is they got this worm thing that swallows the ball, a bit like the Metallica hammer mech, and I've seen a couple of them down now. In fact, on this first day I was able to play Dune. The second day I wasn't, because it was that worm thing was hosed, and that's the second time I've seen that. I don't know if that's something to worry about. Having looked at some pictures of it, it doesn't look like it's probably the best design mech you might expect, but I'm sure the barrels of fun guys are over it. I've said this before, but the flippers on BOF games just feel underpowered to me. And again, I definitely got that feeling again. I don't know if you can change that. I don't have access to the keys of this game. So that was quite challenging. Oh, God. Excuse me. I feel really bad yawning. It's not through anything other than jet lag. I played Barrios. I've actually bought a Barrios. Barrios is a great game. It's a lot of fun to shoot. I played Galactic Tank Force with the latest core on it. Again, it plays really great. It's a shame that game it's a shame they kind of messed that game up. Frankly, it should have done better than it has done. But I might pick one up cheap in the fire sale. American Pinball look like they're done. I drove past the factory and it didn't look like it had a lot going on. What else did I play that's kind of new or weird? I think that's it. I don't think there was anything. I mean, I played a lot of other games in the tournament, etc. And the tournament was a huge amount of fun. The games were set up great, but I think that probably covers it. And I say a big shout out to Interium, Andy Bagwell, and the Papa crew that put on Papa 22 because it was a huge amount of fun. They raised a huge amount of money for the suicide awareness. So this is tournaments in memory of Lyman Sheets, and lots of money was raised for the suicide hotline and suicide support organizations, and it was good to see that that money being donated for that cause. And also Stern, a big shout out to Stern. In fact, actually more than just Stern, but I'm going to mention him specifically. Stern gave the Papa 22 two Whitewood playfields to auction off. One was Kong, and one was Metallica LE, the remastered. So I was I was bidding on both, but unfortunately my logistics partner, he couldn't get them collected when they needed to be collected because I didn't know they were there. I didn't give them enough notice, so I kind of stopped bidding and was praying that someone would outbid me, which on both things they did. All the vendors kind of leaned in and gave stuff that was raffled away. It worked out really well. Yeah, that's it. That's probably it for me. Hopefully we'll be back in a couple of weeks ahead of the UK Open with Scott. But let me know what you think about Star Wars in the comments. Subscribe, like, etc. If you're watching on YouTube, if you're watching on your own podcast catcher, again, subscribe and give us some likes. Makes all the difference, not just to me but to any pinball streamer, because the more we're visible, the less likely of shit shows like Disney not delivering Star Wars to Europe. On that bombshell, I'm going to say adios. Again, a shout out to Scott and family for and wishing them well over the next few weeks. And speak to you soon, folks.